anyone heard of Nelson Mandela before? Yes? Okay, so all of you guys. What have you guys heard about him? Janera?
He took part in you.
Okay. Marcus?
Also, he took part in South Africa.
Yep. Kai?
He was the president of South Africa, and he took the lead of Gandhi.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so those are all good answers. So what he did was fight against apartheid in a non-violent way. So I'll just go ahead and start reading about him. All right. So Cape Town, South Africa. Robben Island, a wild rocky outpost 7 miles off the coast, was a place of banishment. Does anyone know what banishment means? Marcus?
Banishment means to be banished away from everybody.
Yeah. So like an empty place where like no one lives.
Abandoned.
Yep, abandoned. Okay. So Nelson Mandela arrived there in the dark belly of a boat chained to 3 other men. This is the island where we all died. White prison guards yelled at 4 men as they stepped off the boat. They commanded them to jog between lines of armed guards to the prison gate house. Mandela knew this moment was crucial. Why do you think Mandela thought the moment was crucial? You guys know what crucial means?
Yes. No, not fair to others.
Yeah, crucial can mean that it's like a very important part right now. Jemiah? What do you think?
I think because he saw he yelled at the white man yelled at other people, and he told other people to jog and stuff around.
Yeah. Marcus?
I think it was a moment of crucial because they told him to jog, and he noticed, he knew that it was going to be horrible.
Yeah, because the guards are yelling at them at that point, right? Toya?
I think it's closer because he's chained up to 3 other men, and they're all having to jog in between armed prison guards.
Yep.
And
Yeah. All right. So the job of the guards was to break their spirit. As the jailer screamed at them, he and the others kept their pace slow. The guards were astonished. Does anyone know what astonished means?
Amazed or surprised.
Yeah. So it's like surprise, right? So why might the guards have been astonished at this point? Angel?
maybe because when the person was screaming, maybe the guy happened to him, or maybe he broke down.
Yeah. Marcus?
I think when he felt astonished, he didn't break their spirit, or he didn't break their spirit, but they kept their spirit alive.
Okay. All right, so let's keep going. They threatened to kill the men if they did not move faster. Mandela replied, "You have your duty and we have ours," and walked with measured dignity to the gates. He spent the next 27 years in prison. Nelson Mandela had been born into a royal household in the Dumbai clan of Hausa nation in South Africa. As a young boy, he spent his days outside herding goats, cattle, horses, and sheep, and stick fighting with other boys. His father died when Mandela was 9, and the boy was sent to live with the Dumbai chief who raised him to be an advisor to the king. But he left home and ended up in Johannesburg. It was his work there as a lawyer that opened his eyes to the injustices that Black South Africans were suffering. So, why might you think that they were suffering? Does anyone know? Say again?
Apartheid.
The apartheid, yeah, okay. Anyone else?
Hurting them?
Yeah, that might be a reason. All right. So at the time, the nation of South Africa was ruled by a brutal system called apartheid. So I gave you the set about the apartheid, so I'm sure you guys heard of the apartheid, right? Does anyone
confess what you had did.
It's TRC. It's TRC. It's TRC.
Yeah.
Jemiah?
Apartheid is when people who fought against apartheid, they end up missing, they got killed, or they got harmed while the apartheid was going on.
Yeah, so the apartheid can be, that was when like the whites wanted to be in control of the black people, right? Yeah, okay. So, the apartheid, which means apartments. Though there were many fewer white South Africans than blacks, the white minority held complete power and control over the country. The black majority could not even vote. Secret police raids, army tanks, and guns, house arrest, imprisonment, torture, and killing were used to keep the system in place. So with all that happening, how do you think people felt during this time?
Like sad and hurt and mad.
Yeah, right? What? No?
I heard they feel displaced.
Place? Yeah, that's good. Hopeless? Markets?
They feel like they're going to spirit.
They felt what?
They felt like they're going to spirit and don't believe anything.
Yeah. Jermaine?
They felt sad and depressed because all their loved ones was dying and people, it was just wrong for them to just pull out guns on them and tanks and kill people.
Yeah, like they said, there was secret police raids, there was torture going on, imprisonment. So all these things that I'm sure people didn't like how they were treated. Okay. Yes. Yeah, they felt hurt, right? Alright, so Mandela and his partners were members of the African National Congress, which called for one man, one vote, and a democratic nation for all races. So the African National Congress is also called ANC, okay? So the ANC started as an organization dedicated to nonviolence. Their 1952 defiance campaign had been modeled on Gandhi's methods. So we've all learned about Gandhi as well. So what was Gandhi's methods?
Bring social change to South Africa and India.
Yeah, so she said bring social change to South Africa and India. Maya?
He was one of the independent civil rights movement leader, and he wanted to bring change from the British. The British took over the South Africa and India, and he wanted. And then every time they have an ID, and when Indians travel to South Africa, they got jailed or they had got put in jail.
Yeah, so all of these were a movement of freedom, and this was all in a non-violent way, right? He was never wanted to do anything in a violent way. All right. So, however, Nelson Mandela and some other members were not pacifists. Convinced that the government violence would never change without armed resistance, the fiery lawyer had help from the military group to train soldiers to fight back. For these actions, he was sentenced to life imprisonment on Rhode Island. Okay, so at the prison, the leaders of the anti-apartheid movement, black, Indian, and colored, or mixed race, were housed together in one section. So, what do they mean by colored? Mandela believed he would be free one day. He knew that his challenge was to survive in both body and spirit, to emerge from prison whole. He and other leaders began a campaign to improve their conditions. They decided that the most effective way to resist was to adapt completely nonviolent strategies. They organized strikes, refusing to eat or slowing down their work. They treated their guards with respect and, when possible, befriended them. But they refused to be bullied. At first, they demanded long pants instead of shorts they were given, which only boys wore. Over many years, they won better food, more blankets, and the chance to have more visitors, to write letters, to study, to receive books. So, after he did all these and changes were made, do you think that they would have accomplished this acting in violent ways? Did he act in violent ways doing any of this?
No.
In non-violent ways, right? So if they were to do this in violent ways, how do you think it would have been when he was in prison?
They would have used lethal force.
They would
Try
have,
that again?
Try to escape or
They would have did anything to me. Like you said, he was in prison. They ain't trying to do anything they can to get him. He didn't try to do anything he can to get out of jail, like shoot, take him up and go to there and shoot.
Yeah, so if they would have acted in violent ways, they would have never had the privilege to have more books, to have more visitors, to receive more blankets. All these things that they received were because they acted in nonviolent ways and respected their guards. Mike?
I think if he was acting in a non-violent way, he would talk back to the guards, and he would have hit the guards, he would have did something to them.
Intimidated the guards.
Yep.
Yeah. So it would have been bad things happening then. True. Okay. Meanwhile, they transformed the prison into a place of learning. Stolen newspapers read in secret by one person were copied on tiny scraps of paper and passed around. As one man pushed a rock-filled wheelbarrow in the quarry, another walked beside him, telling him what he knew of science or mathematics or philosophy. When books and studies were finally allowed, everything learned was shared with others. Group debates might go on for 30 or 40 days, working out differences among the men and visions of how the country should run. In 1982, Mandela and several other leaders were transferred to another prison where the government hoped to have control over them. The officials of the regime wanted to isolate these anti-apartheid campaigns from the other prisoners. So we know what apartheid is, so what would be anti-apartheid?
No.
Like the opposite, like non-violent.
No apartheid.
Yeah, so they're not for it, right? They're against apartheid. So, and they also wanted to create opportunities for secret negotiations with them. Mandela and his colleagues took their struggle for dignity with them. The campaign to improve conditions in prison was part of the apartheid struggle. Mandela wrote in his autobiography, "We fought injustice wherever we found it, no matter how large or how small, and we fought injustice to preserve our own humanity." That quote, he said, we fought injustice. Does he really mean he fought, or what do you think he means by that?
When he went,
Kai?
like he marched for justice and protested.
Protested.
He had speeches.
Speeches. Yeah, so he doesn't literally mean
Sitting
fall, right? Because he did all this in non-violent ways. Yeah. All right. In 1990, under intense pressure from within South Africa and from countries around the world, the government released Nelson Mandela from prison. He spent the next 4 years in talks negotiating the non-violent transfer of power. On April 27, 1994, the entire country participated in an election. The 75-year-old Mandela and his fellow Black South Africans voted for the first time in their lives. Nelson Mandela was elected president. The ideas that had been chipped out of the hard prison years became the basis of the government of the new South Africa. So, what did Nelson Mandela do to stop the apartheid system? Jeremiah?
He marched.
The march. Protest.
Speeches.
Just marches,
Yes.
sit-ins,
Nonviolent resistance.
nonviolent resistance,
Went on strikes.
boycotts. Right. Amir,
I was about to say boycott.
you're about to say that?
Boycott. Oh yeah, because when he did boycott, he told
The South African
to burn it. Yeah.
Yeah, so in prison he made changes. They said that he organized strikes. And then once he got out, you know, they said that he had talks, negotiations, like you guys said, boycotts, sit-ins, all things like that is what he changed to stop the apartheid. And all of that was in nonviolent ways.
Ain't the boycott is a sit-in?
No, it was the boycott and sit-in, like all these things that he did that changed the apartheid system.
Boycotts and sit-ins are exact different because boycotts is like not doing something and sit-ins is just like when you just sit
Not
there.
doing something.
Well, it's like a meeting.
But
Yeah,
you don't